Welcome everyone to another video. Today we're doing something a little bit different. So here on the channel I have done some tech reviews in the past, but it has all been smaller tech, AirPods, iPhone, computer, cameras, lenses, that kind of thing. But today we are taking a look at some larger tech. Today we are taking a look at the Ninebot S. This is not some little hoverboard. This thing is an actual personal transport. So if you'll remember, a couple years ago, let's get this thing out of the way. We're talking like 2016, 17, 18. Hoverboards exploded. Now, we all probably have one or have a friend who has one sitting in their basement. These things just absolutely took off and exploded across the world. Before long, every company was making their own version of a hoverboard, adding different kinds of features, Bluetooth speakers, lights, all kinds of different stuff to these hoverboards, and everyone was getting them. Now, a hoverboard is a pretty cool toy, but this thing takes it to a completely different level. But let's let the stat sheet prove it. This thing charges up in about 3 hours, and that will last you for about 14 miles of range. Of course, the 14 miles is a little optimistic. If you're maxing this thing out quite a bit, like going full speed and running into the governor and stuff, and going over rough terrain, that's gonna wear out the battery much, much faster than 14 miles. Optimistic 14 miles. So this thing launched in 2019, which was actually about the end of the hoverboard craze. So not great timing, but depending how you look at it, it could be good timing, seeing as how it's not in competition with the hoverboards. So this Ninebot S, it looks very similar to something that you may be more familiar with, which is the Segway Mini Pro. In fact, if you've been trying to buy the Segway Mini Pro, you may notice that they are a little bit harder to find now. That may be because this is actually the upgraded version. So in 2016, they came out with the Segway Mini Pro, which is actually a very similar product, but they upgraded some stuff on this one, including they knocked an hour off of the charge time. They added just a little bit more range to it, like 0.3 miles or something, so not much at all. They changed the bar system, so it's no longer an extendable steering bar, it's just set in place. So this thing has a top speed of 10 miles per hour, a maximum slope capacity of 15 degrees, and it runs on about 10.5-inch tires. And it runs on a 1600 watt engine, which is shockingly powerful. This thing can take all kinds of different terrain, rocks, gravel, grass, dirt, pretty much whatever you want you can go hauling over on this thing. And granted, it does get a little dangerous when you get into thick sand. The wheels can like lose traction and it can get a little sketchy, but just merely the power is probably not going to be your issue. One of my friends recently actually took his Segway Mini Pro up a curb, which is pretty impressive. Not down a curb, he took it up a curb. Very cool. So this thing also has some sweet tech features, including a phenomenal app where you can see the remaining range, battery percentage, how many miles the vehicle has on it. It even has a built-in mapping system. It even has a lock feature where you can put this thing into lock mode, and if someone tries to grab it, it'll start shaking and beeping and the lights will flash, and it will not be rideable while it's in that state. Now granted, someone can just pick it up and tear off with it, but while it's locked, no one can ride it. So if you click on the little Segway icon, you can go into a little speedometer section where if you click on it, it opens up into your camera. So you have a speedometer that you can be looking at, but it won't be blocking so much of your vision when you're actually on the Segway. So you have speed, ride time, mileage, and even the temperature of the vehicle, so you can see if this thing is being worked too hard or if it's about to overheat. So this thing also has a pretty extensive setting menu where there's a password for the vehicle, firmware update, speed settings, sensor, speed alarm for backwards riding, anti-theft alarm, power off allowed when locked, read black box data, factory data reset, and you can even turn it off from the app itself. As well as you have your headlights that you can turn on and off, and you even have your glow lights that you can adjust in the back. If you swipe over to the left and go to lighting effects, there are a significant amount of lighting options where you can turn on your glow lights, and you have a bunch of different lighting settings like dynamic breathing, single color wave, full color wave, and even these flashing settings. And if you click on one, you can adjust the different colors here at the bottom for the glow lights. And the glow lights are the LED strips on the back of the Segway. So enough said about the app. It is very impressive, very extensive, and there's just so many options of things you can do inside of that app. We have two of this Segway-Ninebot S's. One of them has almost 1,000 miles on it. The other one has 1,100 miles on it. Both are still going strong, although the one with over 1,000 miles, the battery is definitely starting to deteriorate, and it is not as good as the one with the lesser miles on it. So that could be just because differentiation in the units, or it could be just simply when they get to a certain point and a certain amount of charges or whatever, the battery just starts to deteriorate. So the same friend that, was kind of a crackhead with this and drove it up a curb, the same guy that drove his Segway up a curb, he has used and abused his Segway to an impressive extent. He was flying along with this thing in the woods, and he hit something, and it tore the battery entirely off. Literally not so much as a cable attaching the battery to the Segway. And he hooks the battery back up and literally puts screws back through the battery and reattaches it to the Segway, and it works perfectly. So these things are just crazy tough. You can do whatever you want to them. They're just really tough.
Hey guys, it's me, Vince here, and I'm about to show you how virtually indestructible my Segway Mini Pro is. I have bashed this thing for almost 2 years now, and it is still holding up great. I have right around 400 miles on it, and it is still plugging away. The tires are still the original tires, and as you're about to see in these next couple clips, I absolutely destroy this thing.
The build quality on the Ninebot S does seem to be a little bit better. It is the upgraded version, so you can kind of expect that, but it's not anything just insanely dramatic. One of the biggest differences between the Segway Mini Pro and the Segway-Ninebot S is that the bar in the middle is different. It is not detachable on the Ninebot S, and it is also not extendable. But I personally enjoy the angle of the Ninebot S a little bit better than the angle of the one on the Segway Mini Pro. But on the Segway Mini Pro, the steering bar can have a little bit of a tendency to come loose, and you'll have play in it. So you'll have to push it farther to actually steer where you want to go. There is so little of that on the Ninebot S. So this thing is even a little bit water resistant. It has an IP54 rating, so not anything too impressive. But if you're out in just like a light rain or you splash through a puddle, you're going to be just fine. So that's nice that they add this in. If you want to actually use this thing as a transport, you want to be able to use this in good weather. Although if it's not a rain that you yourself are comfortable with being in, if it's like absolutely just drenching on the place, it's just not smart. Like, it might be fine, but it's not really smart to risk it. These things are pretty expensive, which brings me to the price. This thing is going for about $540 on Amazon, so it is a bit of an expensive unit. It's not the price of a hoverboard, but it is completely worth double what the hoverboard is. It's just, it's a completely different level than the hoverboard. The hoverboard is a Christmas gift toy. This is something that you could legitimately buy for your commute to work, potentially. And with gas prices what they are, you might want to give it a consideration. In conclusion, I would 1000% recommend the Segway-Ninebot S. If you were considering buying a hoverboard, don't. They're gone. They're out of date. It's not worth spending $200 on a hoverboard when you can spend twice as much and get something like this. Well, twice as much is a stretch from 200. Yeah, you get the point. It's not important. What is important is that these things are incredibly fun and incredibly versatile, super tough, and they don't die. We're up over 1,000 miles on this thing, still going for it. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video on the Segway-Ninebot S, and I will see you all next week. At the Segway-Ninebot 1S. Let's run that back real fast. This unit, right, this thing takes two-wheeled. This is an awesome, what do I say here? In fact, you may have actually found this, let's make sure that's true. Which is actually added just a little bit of rate, excuse me. This thing is, where you where my goodness, I hope that's not maxing out. That would suck a lot. How many miles is 1,800 kilometers? Which is about 1,100 and which is over 1,000. Brash to hill. But all right, I think we're good. It's still good. It's still good. Mmm, tangy.